Thank you. It's a little awkward standing here talking to you with the microphone and not hearing anything coming out of the sound system or whatever. Thank you, Michelle. This is something that we've done probably for 5 or 6 times, I guess, over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's my pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to try to help you guys with the next stage of your career. And essentially, you're going from being a student, and most of you have been a student for a long time, and getting ready to enter into that world of work. And it's a transition. It's different. And a lot of times, I know you just don't know exactly what to expect with the interview process. And I'm going to try to go through some different scenarios with you and just kind of give you an idea of what to expect, how to get the interview, how to put together your resume, how to put together your portfolio if you're doing that, and just try to give you some practical advice this morning that you can use maybe within the next month or two as you end your career as students and look for that world of work. As Michelle said, I was a building administrator for 28 years at all of them at Central High School, Champaign Central High School, which is unusual. The last 9 years I was a principal there, and did have lots and lots and lots of opportunities to hire people as really as an assistant principal and a principal, and saw lots of people that came in and were very, very prepared for interviews, and some people that came in and weren't prepared at all. And you've all heard that the first impression, that first 3 or 4 minutes makes a huge difference in whether or not you get hired or not. And we're going to talk about some of those things because in most cases you're going to be having a first impression with maybe 4 or 5 different people. And I always collaborated with those 4 or 5 different people to see what their impressions were as we went through the interview process. So we'll talk a little bit about that. As Michelle said, now I have the opportunity to work with the Illinois Principals Association. I'm a field coordinator for them, and I have the opportunity to go out into buildings and work with new principals, much like I did work with new teachers as they have come in. So it's a challenge, and it's a lot of fun, and it keeps me involved with the world of education. I am a graduate of Carbondale, SIU, with a master's degree, a bachelor's degree from SIU, and I had my administrative certificate endorsements here from Eastern. So Eastern is kind of a special place for me, and I enjoy coming back. I can tell you that over my years of experience, the interviewees that I saw from Eastern and from Illinois State were by far the best qualified and the best prepared of students, of teacher applicants who came in for interviews. So you've got a leg up, and it's seminars like this and all of the work that Michelle does with you to prepare you that make you good candidates. So you've got a huge advantage over a lot of other students out there looking for employment. So take advantage of that. That's a good thing. Again, if you have questions, if you don't understand where I'm going or what I'm saying, don't be afraid to interrupt, raise your hand. I would rather keep this as informal as possible. It's a little different arrangement than what we normally have because I like to kind of have that proximity and move closer to you as we do the presentation, but I'm kind of stuck standing up here, so we'll make the best of it. So let me just get an idea of who you are. How many people here are in elementary ed? Okay, quite a few. How about how many people want to go to the middle level, to middle school, junior high school? Okay, good. And high school? Okay, and how many people just want to get a job? You don't care where it is. Most of you, yeah. Okay, and you will. You'll be in good shape for that. So let's just start with getting that application out there and getting your name out to schools where there are opportunities. in this day and age, there are lots of needs in education, much more so than there was 10 or 12 years ago. And so that's a good thing for you. But I also think that students coming out now, teachers coming out at this point in time, are better prepared. So your competition, even though there may be not as many people vying for that position, I think they're better prepared. And so that's challenging for you. Let me start by asking you to really kind of consider where you would like to work. Some of you have no interest whatsoever in going into a large city, whether it be Chicago or Rockford or a larger metropolitan area. Some of you don't want to go into mid-sized cities like Springfield or Decatur or Champaign or Danville, and would much prefer to be in the rural setting. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't sell yourself short. And I have known many, many administrators in particular who don't want the headaches of a larger school district and have settled into the smaller rural schools and get stuck there. And 10, 15 years later, they're saying, gee, I don't, my resume doesn't have experience with diversity. My resume doesn't have experience with a variety of socioeconomic classes. So don't sell yourself short. And I'm not saying anything bad at all about the smaller rural schools, because they have a lot to offer, great opportunities there. You get to know the community, you get to know the families. It's a little bit different setting than going into a school building where you have 4 or 5 fifth grades or 10 chemistry classes. But at the same time, kind of have an idea where you want to go and what you want to do. I would not recommend just sending out 100 resumes, 100 applications to 100 different schools throughout the Midwest. Number one, I think you're spending a lot of extra money, a lot of extra time that you don't necessarily have to do. I would focus on those 7 or 8 schools that are high on your list. Yes, I'd like to go here. I'd like to work here. I'd like to be part of this community. Go in that direction. And some of you have limitations, and you have a significant other that has to be in a particular location. Maybe you have a parent who is dependent on you, so you don't have a lot of flexibility. But kind of look around and see where you would really like to go and where you would like to work or where you'd like to begin your career. I think they say most people in education have at least 3 different job sites over the course of their career. So, chances are good that you're going to start in a school district, and for whatever reason, you're going to have to move on someplace else. You get married or whatever, and you have to find another job. So, keep your eyes open and look for those 5, 6, 7 different school districts that you would be comfortable in or you think you would be comfortable in. Watch their websites, contact their directors of personnel or their the building principals, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But and check on availability for jobs. Again, you don't need to spend a lot of time just sending applications in to be filed someplace if there aren't any positions there. And find the position, find the school that has a position, and work on that. Concentrate on that. I think that's a good advice to begin the process. Once you've done that, you've got to get their application. The applications are different. Every school district has a different set of expectations for the application process. Some school districts require a number of references. Some school districts require that you have a portfolio. Some school districts require that you put lessons together on a PowerPoint or whatever and provide the school with the PowerPoint. Some school districts don't require any of those things. So you've got to kind of look at that, and you have to provide what they need. If they require that you have a portfolio of lesson plans and activities that you've done throughout your student teaching career, you've got to put those together. And obviously, as first-year teachers or people looking for that first job, you don't have the information, you don't have the background that somebody that's in their second or third job have. So you have to put together what you have, and you have to present what you have and your lessons and your portfolios and your PowerPoints the best you can. And yes, you're going to compete against some of those people that have been in the field for a while, but that's okay. You can do that. And there are many, many situations where I had experienced teachers come in for interviews, and I hired the inexperienced person simply because they had a passion for teaching. And I think you probably heard this from every one of your profs, that if you're not in this with a passion, you're probably in the wrong place. Teaching is difficult. Teaching is something that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort all the way around, from the lesson planning to the dealing with the parents to dealing with the kids on an hourly basis. And at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you're tired. And and if you're doing it right, you're going to be tired at the end of the week, and you should be. But it's a good tired. And if you're doing it right, you're going to feel good about what you're doing. The kids are going to acknowledge what you're doing, and you're going to get a lot of rewards. You've all got friends who are not in education, and many of them are in business or doing other things, and I can guarantee you that the rewards that you get from working with young people are going to far exceed the rewards that they're going to get, and they may be making a whole lot more money than you, but you're in a great place. Let's just continue along the road here of how to get into an interview situation. Michelle, are they required to put together portfolios? Is that something that Eastern requires now? Okay. Having a portfolio, some principals will want to see them, and some won't. And you put together a lot of work to get those the way you want them. And don't feel bad if there are some people that say, I'll look at it, but they're not taking it as seriously as maybe you took it when you were putting it together. Other principals will use that portfolio, and we'll go through it page by page by page, and we'll really look to see what you've done. And so you have to have a good one, and I think that's important. Portfolios were not the most important thing as I interviewed people. But they were there as a tiebreaker, I guess. If I couldn't decide between a couple of people, I would use the portfolio and go through that and see what kinds of things they've done. I think the portfolios are probably a little bit more important at the elementary level than they are at the secondary level. But again, it just depends on who you're interviewing with and what their qualifications are and what they're looking for. Get those applications from the school district and get them back to them by as soon as you can. Most jobs will have a closing date on it. We'll say that the job will close on December the 1st, and they'll stop taking applications at that time or not, but they will have a closing date. One very, very important rule, I think, is don't just send that application and your resume into the school's personnel director. You need to send that and provide that to the building principal where the job is. And the reason for that is particularly if you're in a larger school district, and I would say from a school district the size of Charleston or Mattoon up, you're going to want to identify the building where the position is open, and you're going to want to get in contact with that principal. The first thing you do is you send a copy of the resume, a copy of your application, to the personnel director and to the principal. I also recommend that after a week or so that you give that building principal a phone call and say, I understand that you have an opening in the 3rd grade, and I sent my application to your office, and I'm just wondering that if you got it, and if everything is current, if you have everything that you need.